Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Spiritual Scrapbook Reacts. If this is your first time joining me, I thank you. If not, I thank you. Either way, don't be a stranger. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that you'll be notified when I upload new videos. If you care to give a like, it will be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, let's get into Tell Me About Your First Paranormal Experience, Part 5, TikTok 2022 on TikTok History Channel. Check them out over there and subscribe to stay abreast of the content that they're sharing. Being said, let's get into it.
I want to know about your first paranormal experience. Where to start? I have so many stories. So, just the rundown. My house is almost 200 years old. I'm the fourth generation of my family taking over this house. When my husband and I moved back in, we discovered rooms that were not common knowledge to my family. So, my first paranormal experience really isn't that interesting, but it's the first one that I remember. I was around 4 years old. I was going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Nobody else was awake. And I go in there, do my business. I'm leaving the bathroom, and as you can see, the bathroom is directly behind me. Now, directly in front of me, we have this window. I step out of the bathroom and make the mistake of looking in this general direction, and the blinds on the window just do this. It scared me so bad, I ran directly into my parents' room. My dad would always comfort me by saying, "It's okay, it's just your grandma or your grandpa or whoever. They're just coming to visit you. There's nothing to be scared of." But of course, it really didn't feel that way because I was scared. I seriously could make a whole series out of this. So, like if you want to see more. I want to know about your first paranormal experience. If you don't already know, my house is almost 200 years old. It's incredibly haunted. I'm the fourth generation taking over on the house. Almost 10 years ago, my sister and I were sitting at the dining room table having a conversation. Out of nowhere, a breeze came in, and when the breeze came in, we noticed the smell of cigarette smoke and perfume, but nobody in the household smoked cigarettes. This was a pretty normal occurrence to us, and we used to think it was really cool, so we would kind of follow it around and see where it was going. Well, we ended up in the kitchen. Around the same time this had happened, my dad had just gotten a surgery for a hip replacement, and he wasn't even able to walk without a walker yet. Well, all of a sudden, my dad's bedroom door opens and he comes walking down the hallway with no walker. His face was pale as a ghost. And I was like, "Oh my God, Dad, what are you doing?" He said, "I saw your grandma sitting on the end of my bed and I followed her out here." And then she disappeared into the kitchen. He still has no recollection that this ever happened. Make sure to follow for more stories. I want to know about your first paranormal experience. So, if you don't already know, my house is almost 200 years old. I'm the fourth generation taking over on it, and it's very haunted. The story that I'm going to be talking about today happened in my bedroom. Now, if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I used to sleep in a different bedroom, but I moved from there because of the hauntings, and now I'm sleeping in here. I moved into this bedroom when I was a teenager, and in this corner of my bedroom, we used to have this. Yes, that's an old rocking chair. That rocking chair was made sometime in the 1860s. The reason the rocking chair was in my room was because my room used to be the guest room. The rocking chair was there as decoration. It used to sit in that corner until one night I woke up to the rocking chair rocking. Not only was the rocking chair rocking itself, but it was also getting stuck underneath the trim of my window and pulling itself back out. I was so terrified, I called my dad on the phone even though he was asleep in the next room because I was too afraid to get up out of my bed. So, if you want the chair, let me know. I don't want it. Follow along for more. I want to know about your first paranormal experience.
Okay, I've been waiting to tell this story. So I grew up in a super rural farmhouse that was built by my ancestors in the 1800s. I come from a family of farmers, so death was definitely super common, and we lived in a house that when people in the family would die, the funerals would be held right in the house. When I was a little kid, it always felt like weird stuff was going on. Like I always felt like I was being watched, or things were following me, or things would fly off shelves, stuff like that. But the staircase of the house definitely freaked me out the most. It always felt like someone was behind me on it. So one day I stopped on the last stair because it felt like someone was behind me, and I looked and there was this little girl, clear as day. A couple months later, my grandpa passed away and we were cleaning out pictures from his house, and I see the little girl. I find out it's his sister who died in that house when she was 11. It was the little girl I saw on the staircase, and that's the story about how I met my great aunt Ruth.
I want to know about your first paranormal experience. Y'all ever heard about doppelgangers? That was my entire childhood. The year's 2001. I'm 4 years old. It's 6 a.m. and I want to go downstairs to watch cartoons because nobody else is awake. One episode into Scooby-Doo, the commercial hits, and I noticed that my mom is sitting next to the TV. I don't know how I didn't notice her beforehand, but she was there now. So I'm 4 years old. I just roll with it. I'm like, "Hey, Mom, can I have some hot chocolate?" Her response, Yes, her response was just a blank stare. She did not budge when I asked her that. Unusual behavior from my mother. So loving and caring, would bring me hot chocolate if I asked. So I'm like, peculiar. Let me ask again. She probably didn't hear me. Hey, Mom, can I have hot chocolate? Same response, and this one hit different. My heart sank, and I sat back in the couch and realized that there are things in this world that I don't yet understand. This happened every morning for a week, but the catch was that I forgot it happened the morning previous each time. I actually had to force myself to remember. She would always disappear when my real mom came into the room. I have years of stories. She learned how to mimic my mom's voice, so I want to know about your first paranormal experience.
Shadow people are real. When I was 8 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night to see a man standing completely still in my window. I only saw his shadow, but he had a trench coat and a top hat on. It's normal to see people's shadows, especially if they were like walking their dogs or something, because that's just the kind of window I had, but this was legit. First I thought, okay, maybe it's just like sleep paralysis, but after a while, he kept coming back almost every single night. I remember getting so scared to sleep by myself that I would either just sleep on the couch or with my mom. Eventually, we moved out of that place, and I never saw him ever again. Fast forward to age 23, that's when I completely forgot this guy even existed. I was battling depression from my divorce, and I attempted to throw myself off of a building. As I was about to jump off, I get a phone call from my mom. My mom has a friend who's a psychic medium whom I've never met before. Frantically called her asking if I'd ever seen a man with a top hat. You won't believe what he said next. Like for part 2.
I want to know about your first paranormal experience.
A lot of things happened in my life that are paranormal, but at 4 years old, this is one that I distinctly remember because it came back to haunt me later. So, me and my older brother and sister were playing in our living room / dining room area, and out of my peripheral, I see somebody peeking over the corner, and then they jolt back, but the silhouette of that person was so familiar, so I just let it go. 14 years later, it came back. My father had just died, and a couple months later, our childhood home had burned down. We weren't living in there. We had moved to like fucking 40 other different states and shit. So I fall into a super deep drug to sleep because I just didn't want to live anymore. And I basically fucking time traveled. And I went back into my old childhood home, remembered everything distinctly. I can smell everything. I literally time travel. This is literal time travel. And I hear these kids playing, and I look over the corner, something like this. And the reason why I did that was because I seen my childhood self. I was my own shadow person. I made myself.
I want to know.
I am ready to believe that, young man, you were high. You were high. I mean, everyone else's story, you know, I can kind of believe, but that one, not so much. Right? You guys decide: is he lying, or is he high? Was he high? Was he drunk? Talk about it down in the comment section.
Know about your first paranormal experience.
Oh, girl. Excuse my stuff in the background. I'm doing laundry, so don't judge me. So when I was like 17 years old, I had watched the movie White Noise. It's basically about a guy who loses his wife and contacts her via EVP. What EVP is it's where you basically record spirits, ghosts, whatever, speaking to you through like recordings. So of course my curious ass takes a video recorder and goes to the cemetery and spoke to spirits. One in particular will always stick with me. It was a little girl who was buried with her grandma, and we knew this because the tree next to her tombstone said both of their names. So we asked the little girl what it was like to be on the other side, and clear as day, we could hear her say, "It's not that bad." And then shortly after the little girl answers, you can hear a smoker's type of old lady voice telling her to stop talking to us, like for part 2.
I want to know about your first paranormal experience.
Holy crap. I'm 14. It's December. It's dark as fuck outside. My brother's telling me, hey, mom is calling you and asking for you in the chicken coop. She's looking for you. And I'm thinking, okay. So I go outside and it's dark. I'm scared of the dark, but my mom's out there, so I should be safe. The chicken coop is pitch black, and I open the gate and I go, Mom? And she goes, I'm in here. And as I take one step in, my brother at the house opens the back door and screams, Ariana, it turns out mom's in the living room. She's right here right now. She's asking for you. And I have my hand on the gate and I look at my brother, and then I look into the darkness that is the chicken coop. If my mom was in the living room, who the fuck just called me in that darkness? Who was in there? It sounded just like my mom. I ran so fast. So fast.
I want to know about your first paranormal experience.
Story my pops told me that I'll never forget. told me like when I was a baby in the crib, I was just crying and crying and crying. He didn't know I was crying. I never cried as a kid. So he went to the crib, picked me up, wouldn't stop crying. So he took me back to his room in his bed, and I fell asleep on his chest. And he said after I fell asleep, he had a dream. He had a dream about his grandparents, and in the dream, his grandmother was upset with his grandfather. They were arguing. She was like, "I told you not to touch him. This, that, and blah, blah, blah. We were supposed to just go look. We weren't supposed to touch him because he's a baby." And then his grandfather was like, "I was just excited to see him. I didn't know. I'm sorry." He said after that, he woke up and he checked the spot where my grandfather supposedly touched me in the dream, and he said it was black and blue.
I want to know about your first paranormal experience.
All right, here we go. So when I was 14 years old, I had a girlfriend, and she was 15. So at that age, our parents didn't allow us to hang out in our room. So my parents allowed her to come over, but we had to hang out in the basement. My basement isn't creepy at all. It's completely done, so like it's not like a creepy basement story. But we were down there one night, and we were watching a movie. And the movie was over, so I got up because I couldn't find the remote, and I went to go change the channel. And the way my TV's set up, you have to stick your hand behind the TV, and you have to find the button. And as I did that, I turned around and looked at her, and right above the couch is the bathroom in the background. And when I looked into the bathroom, I saw somebody staring back at me. I was terrified. I didn't say anything, but I told her, "Let's go upstairs." It took me about a week to tell her what I saw, but when I told her, she asked what it looked like. And I told her exactly what it looked like, and she brought up a picture, and it was the exact same person I saw. She told me her brother committed suicide a few years back.
I want to know about your first paranormal
So
experience.
when this happened, I didn't realize it was a paranormal experience. In fact, I recently figured out that it might have been a paranormal experience because I found out that over time, I found out that ghosts and other entities can mimic your loved ones' voices. All right, so I was 10 years old and I had two sisters. I still do. One of them was cleaning the closet, the other one was working 30 minutes away. And as I was getting ready to go to bed, we heard our sister who was working 30 minutes away call our names out. It wasn't like Stephanie and Blank. I just heard my sister call my name out. My other sister heard her name being called out. And we looked out the window and we didn't see her. We called her job and it turns out she was working. So this is time before cell phones. And she was cleaning the bathroom. So when we asked to speak to her, because I wanted to verify this wasn't a prank, when we asked to speak to her, she sounded really annoyed because she was trying to get home. Till this day, we don't know who called our names out, but it was weird that I heard my name and my sister heard her name, but our other sister's voice.
What has someone said to you that will stick with you forever? Just because you have lost me as a friend does not mean you have gained me as an enemy. I still want to see you eat, just not at my table.
Elon Musk has pulled out of the $44 billion Twitter.
Okay, guys, that's the end of that video. That last one with the young lady with the dark hair, that's weird. If you notice, she said that she heard someone call her name and her sister heard someone call her name at the same time, simultaneously, two different names, but sounded like the other sister who was at work. That's some crazy right there. I mean, of course, who wouldn't be weirded out about that? Like, I mean, at some point, you just gotta know that things that go on, these things that people talk about going on, happening to them, all these people aren't crazy. All of them are lying. So I'm going to share with you something that happened to me when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. And I'm not going to date myself, but this was way back in the day when, like, my grandmother, she lived up the street from us. And on Sundays, all of the family would come down to our house and we would have Sunday dinner and just enjoy each other's company. And as a little kid, you loved that time so much because you're surrounded by all of your family and your friends and their friends, and then everybody's just enjoying each other, laughing and cracking jokes. So the day progressed, went on, and day turned into night. I run up and down the street, play with friends, talk with family, and just wore myself out. I fell asleep on the couch. I don't know if I fell asleep watching TV, but I think I fell asleep listening to family members just have conversations. So I fell asleep on the couch And I woke up in the middle of the night when I was lying on my right side facing the front door and still facing the television and everything. I opened my eyes and I see my grandmother, who is very much alive at this time. I see her and she's sitting in the chair next to me. So in my little groggy voice, I said, Mama, because we call my grandma Mama. I said, Mama, why are you still here? And she looked at me, who I presume to be my grandma, looked down at me and smiled and said nothing, just smiled. And I'm waiting for her to say something, and she never said a word. Keep in mind now, this is maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And so I pulled the covers over my head, and I was so afraid to look again that out of fear, I think, just fell back to sleep. The next day, which was Monday, I had to go up the road to my grandma's house and she would take me to the bus stop. So on our way to the bus stop, I asked her, I said, Mama, why were you at the house last night? She said, Pumpkin, because she called me Pumpkin. She said, Pumpkin, what are you talking about? I said, when I woke up on the couch last night, you were still there. And when I asked you why, you didn't say anything. And she paused for a moment and she looked at me and she was like, Pumpkin, I wasn't at your house last night. That wasn't me, baby. Y'all, I don't know who I was talking to, but that wasn't my grandmother. And to this day, I cannot explain that. I cannot forget the look on her face, which was my grandmother's face. Anyway, that's the end of this reaction video. I appreciate you guys for sticking around and watching to the end with me. I hope that the next time I upload, you'll be there with me and join me in the reactions of the next. Until then, take care.